Hello. We're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wheel Talk, the podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and a girl in a wheelchair. Hello, Brittany.
Hello, Fred. You seem so giddy and a little nervous today. I always want to say this morning, but it's not this morning for you. What's up? What's up with all the giddy energy?
There is a giddiness, there is a slight nervousness, and there is a lot of excitement. I've got some big news to share. I sent you a little voice note earlier, and I think that you know what it is. Well, yeah. So, to give everyone a little bit of perspective, I went away on holiday last week. Regular viewers will know that I wasn't on the live stream last week. Brittany did a solo episode. I was away. I went to a relationship rising retreat with Christina, and then I had a week in Southampton with some family, and I've just returned, and I have some exciting news to share.
Dun da da da! Drum roll.
Well, I asked Chris to marry me, and she said yes. Yay, there she is.
As soon as you said you had like some big exciting news, I was like, it's one of two things. And so that was one of them.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, my friend who I was staying with, Matt and Beck was on it. She was like, right, it's either one or two things. So if it's one thing, I've got some bubbly, and if it's the other, I've got some non-alcoholic bubbly. And I was like, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna get married. I'm now engaged. So
that's amazing. Did you know that you were like? Obviously you planned this?
I did plan this. Yeah. I just wanted to interrupt real quick because I can see the comments on the screen here, but they're not coming up on my side of StreamYard for some bizarre reason. So I can't really highlight any comments. But I can see all the congratulations like in the corner there. So thank you guys. Unfortunately, they're not coming up on my screen, but I really appreciate all the well wishes. But the answer to your question is yes, I did. I've been planning this since January. I knew that I wanted to do it in January. Yeah.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, I blurted it out to Benji and I said, I'm going to ask Christina to marry me. It was at the end of like a mushroom ceremony, so I was a little bit excited and I said, I'm going to ask her tomorrow and we'll be married by June. And he said, hold up a sec. He's trying to bring me back down to earth a little bit. He said, don't blurt it out. You give her the proposal that she deserves. Have a plan in place and make it special, which was fantastic advice. So I was planning it since January. Then we moved in together, and the dynamic of our relationship has changed. I thought I need a ring, so I told my parents about it on FaceTime, and my mum said, I've got a ring. I've got the perfect ring for you. Send it in the post. And so I had the ring ready, and again, I still didn't know when to do it. But on the retreat, I popped the question on the last day because I thought it's going to be special. And by the end of the retreat, I'll know if it's like a hell yes or a hell no. And there was something really special that happened on the retreat, which made it a hell yes for me. So I popped the question and she said, yeah. And we can go into more detail about the story if you want. But that is the big news.
I would love the entire story. Like what... Yeah, I love that the ring is something from your parents. The ring that I'm currently wearing right now, this is my wedding band, is Joe's grandma's wedding band. I'm definitely not a like flashy, huge diamond kind of person, something more meaningful and this was like amazing. I thought it was like the best. And he just literally gave me the wedding band when he proposed to me. But I do like the advice of like, make it special. And not that Joe's proposal wasn't special. And now I know how special it is because he was feeling so emotional when he proposed. But we were like at a concert and he was going to propose to me during the concert, but then he chickened out because there was too many people around. So then he was like putting me back in the vehicle and he's like crying. I'm like, are you okay? What's wrong? So like, I thought something was wrong. Like, are you okay? Like, are you feeling okay? And then he just like was trying to ask me to marry him, like in between like crying. As he was like putting me in the vehicle and which is like, it was, now I know it was like really special, but I was just like, wow, that was a proposal, in the truck. I guess, in the truck.
Yeah.
But so I do like the advice to like make it a special, and it is memorable to me now, and I know how special it was for him. Obviously, he was very emotional about it. But yeah, I love the ring, and I'd like to hear more about how you did it.
Thank you so much. So there's a lot more that I want to talk to you about the retreat because it was really fun, and there's a lot that I want to talk to you about the week after because that was also very challenging. But the night that I proposed, we had what was they called the temple night. So we were to choose a song, a special song, and we could do whatever you wanted in the circle, but they would make a circle around the outside. There were 30 of us in total. You could perform, you could dance, you could sing, you could do nothing. You could sit down in the middle and stay completely silent if you wanted to, but it just had to be a song that was special to you, that was, that meant something. I knew immediately. I was like, well, this is how I'm going to propose. Chris turned to me. She's like, oh, do you know what song you're going to do? I was like, yep. She's like, really? I was like, yep, 100%. I know exactly what song. She's like, oh, wow. Okay, that was quick. And I knew I wanted the song Perfect by Ed Sheeran. Beautiful song, beautiful lyrics. And
when your legs don't work like they used to before, I mean, how do you not love that song? It's meant for paralyzed people. I'm sorry.
That's not the song.
Is it not the song? Isn't that it? No. What's that song?
He has another song.
What song is that one I'm thinking of then? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
it's a different song. Yeah. And that one always makes me laugh as well. When your legs don't work. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's relatable. Yeah, no, that would have been funny, though. That would have been really funny. No, the song I was thinking of is called Perfect. And it starts off. It's like, I've found a love.
Oh, that one. Totally. I love that one, too.
So good. The lyrics are perfect. And we have listened to that song so many times over the time we've been together, and I always tell Alexa, oh, play Perfect, and she plays it, and I just love it. It's so good. I love the song. It's the perfect song.
Yeah. So
I said to her, also I said to one of the facilitators, I said, Dan, when my song comes on, I'm going to do something very special. I'm going to get Christina to sit in the middle with me. And I know that there's no phones allowed in the temple space, but I know that you're also playing music from Spotify on your phone. So if you could get a photo of the moment, it would just mean a lot to me. Just one for the scrapbook, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. And I thought he picked up what I was putting down, Turns out he actually thought I was going to do a magic trick. So he was like way off the mark. But we did get some photos. So I said to Chris, my song came on, and I was like, no, because I was sat on the floor, and I've kind of got to drag myself to the middle. And I was like, not yet. And they said, oh, okay, well, your song will be next. And then I turned to Chris, I said, by the way, when my song comes on, I'd really love it if you came in the middle and sat with me, just sat opposite me. And I think that was when she was like, oh, something's up here. I don't know if she suspected it entirely. I would have loved for her to come on the live stream. I was really trying to convince her, but it turns out it makes her horribly nervous to be live streaming in front of lots of people. Yeah. So she politely declined, and she's hot-footed it out of here, taking the dog for a walk. But so she was there. So we got in the middle. I got a picture that I can show. Oh no, that's this one. This one. There we go. So we're sat in the middle. The song comes on. I've found a love. We're looking in each other's eyes. Ed Sheeran is singing away. And everyone's like, oh, how lovely. The song continues. Around about the middle of the song, I reach into my pocket. And, oh, by the way, as soon as Ed Sheeran starts to sing, I've started to cry. And she's like, what's up here? We've listened to this song so many times, and you never cry when it comes on. And I've just started to cry loads. And I think she was suspecting something. So this is before it happened. And then, the ring. I get the ring out of my pocket, and I don't say anything. So unlike Joe, who was trying to blubber something out, I just open the box and let Ed do all the singing for me. You can see
Yeah.
the people in the background. They're like, oh my God, oh my God. You could hear
Yeah.
people say, that's the most romantic thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was a really beautiful, fantastic moment. I opened the box and she was just there and she was like, she started crying, nodding her head. Everyone went wild. It was really beautiful, really special moment. I've got some other photos here. Oh, I think that's actually a very similar one. And that's us having a little
Aw,
kiss. It was incredibly beautiful moment. And that was when I popped the question. And yeah, there you
that's
go. That's
amazing.
the story.
I always wonder if I could handle being one of those women who has somebody propose in a very public way because I hated my
Mm.
wedding because and there was only like 18 people at my wedding. It's not like there was a lot of people there, but I hated everybody looking at me. Like it was the most uncomfortable thing when I was supposed to be like trying to focus on Joe and like our vows and stuff. I'm like worried about everybody else and like how I'm looking if I'm crying or it was just really uncomfortable for me. So that's why I want to renew my vows. I want to renew my vows when it's literally just me and Joe because it's
Mm.
so uncomfortable for me to be in a public place with everybody looking at me. So I don't know that I could have been like Chris seems so chill and calm in the pictures. Um, and I
Yeah.
don't know whether I could have handled that, but that's amazing. I think that's really great. That song, I love that song. Now, as soon as you said that song, I know all the words to that song. It's like it's such a good song, and what a great plan. Like it wasn't
Mm.
obviously planned until you were at the thing, but that's how you knew. You're just like, this is it. I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be perfect, and it was.
This is my moment. And it was perfect. And the song was even called Perfect. So it was
Yeah,
a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I'm just so happy that it went well. And you're right, Chris is the sort of person that would have felt incredibly uncomfortable doing that in front of people. The difference was the retreat was such a special time that we
yeah.
really felt like a family towards the end of the. But like that was the last night, and we felt like a family. It was a really special time, and I can go into more detail about that if you want. But that was the proposal story. So there you go.
I love that. That's a great proposal story. How was the rest of the retreat? Like, what kinds of things did you guys do?
Well, interestingly enough, the retreat was called Relationship Rising. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like part couples work, part emotional boot camp, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I did, which was really good, and I really enjoyed this, I did a digital detox. This was a voluntary thing. I thought, you know what? I am going to be here for a week. There's no need to look at my phone, so I let my battery run out. I lost my Duolingo streak, and I thought I'm not going to look at my phone for an entire week. Well, it was 5 days, but it was good. No phones, no distractions, just us, like 30 other people, and we were just exploring love, communication, and connection, and it was really fantastic.
That's awesome. I always
Yeah.
wonder how, like, I always want to do a complete digital detox, which I've done lots of social media detoxes, like where I don't look at social media at all, other than YouTube when I'm like answering comments and stuff. But I don't, I'm like such a paranoid person that if I don't have my phone, even like my kids are at my in-laws and I go to bed with my phone if they're
Mm.
not here. I'm so worried that I'm gonna miss a call from like my aging parents. Like I'm such a lunatic that way that I don't know how to like turn it off and like not be worried that if I come back to my like connectedness that I'm going to have missed something that I can't ever take back, which is like
Mm.
it's a I think it's like a PTSD response or something like that something bad's going to happen the one
Mm.
time I turn my phone off. But I admire people who are, can do that because I'm so bad and I'm this way with my kids now. Like if they leave the house, like Jacob's driving his car, like I need to be connected to him at all times, which is like not healthy in any way. So I'm just yeah, I think I need therapy on that. But good job. That's like amazing. I think that's really cool. Did you journal a lot? Like what did you do
Of
in the
course.
downtime?
I journaled all the time. I mean, I journal every day anyway, so that was a really
Yeah.
handy habit that I'd already established. So I journaled a lot. I journaled extensively. I've got lots and lots of notes, but I don't really need them. There was so much I could tell you about it. For me, the digital detox was very, very powerful, and I can go into a little bit more detail about how I've handled coming back to interacting with my phone, but
Sure.
I don't want to get derailed from the story, that I guess the
Yeah.
timeline. So the first night we had a bonfire. We wrote down things we wanted to release and threw them into the fire. It was very powerful. It was a little bit as you'd imagine. So around the bonfire, there was a drum, and I was banging the drum and keeping a beat, and there was someone else with the drum, and there was some dancing and all sorts of different energetic vibes. It was a very spiritual place. And I would say on the level of spirituality I was comfortable with, it was borderline a little bit too much, but not to the place. I say not too much actually. That's probably, it was exactly where I'm comfortable with. You know what I mean? It was just enough woo woo that I could get on board with it. But there was, if you know what I mean. But I've been to other places in the past that were outside of my comfort zone, which I just didn't really vibe with. But this place was like baby bear's porridge. You know, it wasn't too much, it wasn't too
Yeah.
little. It was just right. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. The next day after the bonfire, we dove into like these like masculine and feminine energies, which I didn't really expect to like hit as hard as the way they did. It really helped me understand how to show up in a relationship, all the different parts of the heart, like the quadrants of the heart. It was sort of the dark masculine, the dark feminine, the light masculine and the light feminine. It's a little bit vague for me to sort of explain into detail,
Yeah.
but inside the quadrants of this room, there was like a little statue of a baby, a little brass baby, and that was the inner child. So it was, I'll give you an idea of what it was like. And I just had a really lovely time there, exploring all these different things. That was the second day. It was really good. There were also like men's and women's sharing circles, like pure honesty, vulnerability. That was huge. Some of the things that were shared in the men's circle were incredibly honest and unexpected. I thought, wow, you know, I don't have any of the trauma that a lot of these people have
Yeah.
faced, which was a little bit of a surprise because, like I said, it was more like an emotional boot camp, I think, than like a couples retreat, which I was a little bit confused at because it was called Relationship Rising. So there was a lot of trauma being released in different ways. So there were a lot of things that were, like I say, unexpected. And yeah, if you wanted to ask me any questions about that, then I'll go into more detail.
So, yeah, would you say that like the retreat was more effective for you as an individual in terms of like how you relate to yourself and then how you bring yourself to the relationship, or was it more effective for how you and Chris communicate? Do you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes you have to figure out how you are yourself and what you bring to the table so that you're more effective in any relationship. It doesn't matter what relationship. And then sometimes it's like the work has to be done on the individual relationship based on like communication styles or just like tools that you guys can use. Do you think the individual part was more effective or like the group part, like the couple part?
That's a fantastic question because I thought it was going to be a little bit more like couples therapy, like
Yeah.
intense couples therapy. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to get some practical advice on how to communicate better, how to restore harmony in our relationship, you know, increase intimacy, you know, all of these wonderful things. And it was a lot more about like how you show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And I, which left, it's actually interesting because now looking back, it left things almost deliberately vague. It's like, oh, okay, well, how, you know, so when we've come home, I've not been home that long, but there's already like speed bumps thinking, oh, we come out of the relationship so overflowing with love. And then already we're like, oh, are we slipping into old habits? And it's kind of interesting to take the lessons that we learned from the retreat and integrate them in a way that is effective, because it wasn't, I would have preferred practical advice, you know.
Yeah.
It was more, for example, the quadrants of the heart, the dark feminine, and I don't want you to be put off by that word. In fact, you're probably not put off by that word, but I was a little bit put off by the, you know, branding, I guess.
Oh.
Or I was hesitant, shall we say. I wasn't
Yeah.
put off, but I was like, okay. But the dark feminine energy is the wild, like fun energy. And I realized that's what I'm missing. For example, I used to go snowboarding. I used to go mountain biking. I used to go wild and run around in
Yeah.
the woods. And now I live a much more sterile lifestyle, you know, like in my wheelchair on flat surfaces, and I'm much more of a homebody. I've spent a lot more time online, and I've lost that sort of dark feminine. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, maybe I need more of that. And a lot of other people were like, oh, I need more dark masculine, or I need more light feminine, or I need more light masculine. And again, these were different quadrants or different personalities or archetypes, shall we say, that you can inhibit. And everyone has some of that. But I remember thinking, oh, the one I used to have a lot of, and I have no longer, is this wild energy that gets me outside more. And I feel like a bit of a disconnect in that area. And again, I think what they were trying to communicate was, if you are whole and you show up for each other whole, then you can complement each other really well. Whereas if one of you guys is lacking in one area and one of you guys is lacking in another area, that can cause friction.
Yeah.
But also counterintuitively, I always thought that if one was lacking in one area, that's how you fill each other up. But maybe you need to come together whole. I'm still sort of integrating it, so it wasn't exactly solid relationship advice. It was it was beautiful time.
Yeah.
Really good.
I think that's like an important thing to like actually tease through in a relationship, because it's almost like like I don't know how to explain this, but like codependency is like an unhealthy need for each other in order to do certain things or feel good about certain things. But then there's like that thing where like you complement each other, like you don't need each other in all these ways, but you help each other and you fulfill each other's needs in a lot of ways that you wouldn't otherwise have if you were single. And I think it's important to figure out parts of your relationship that are maybe codependent, or parts of yourself that you haven't really grown enough in order to not need somebody else to fulfill that part of you, like emotionally. Like as an example, I used to think that like it was Joe was supposed to come with me everywhere socially. That's what like a spouse was supposed to do, or a partner. And then I had to do like internal work to be like, is it Joe's job to have the same level of socialization that I like? And it's not at all his job to fulfill that part of me. So I had to work on myself and figure out like, what parts of Joe do I need in order to feel socially like fulfilled? And those parts have nothing to do with my outside social life in terms of like my friend circle and all that stuff. And some of the things he has sort of like folded himself into that part of my life, but it took a really, 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 really long time. Like I've known my friend Brian, who was on here before, for 10 years, and Joe just met him 3 years ago. So I hung out with my friend who's a male, which Joe had no problems with me hanging out with him and doing all these things, for 7 whole years before Joe even met him. Like that's how long it took him for like. So I had to be okay with just being like, this is my need. I love to socialize. Joe doesn't. And I think if we don't understand those things that are things to work on versus the relationship things to work on, then we can get into trouble in relationships. So I do think it's important that they did work a lot on the individual level, because then you get to decide. And even though sometimes it's not cut and dry, like it's kind of a gray area in terms of like what things you need individually and what things you need from your partner, but it's still a good thing to do, like so that you can, it's like always, it's never like done. You always have to keep working on it, but yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. You make a really good point there. So the day after so day 3, things became quite intense. It started off quite normal, but then people were releasing trauma in some quite dramatic ways, if I can use that word. There was some yelling, there was some crying, there was some shaking, there was some roaring, it was wild to watch, if I'm honest. So I tried to stay grounded, and I also really felt it very important to come from a place of like non-judgment. I didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, but I wanted to contribute in an authentic way as well. I didn't want to be performative or judgmental. There was one guy there who kind of had like a weird, like a resting face that was a bit like this. So like he was just sat there like, and I thought, you know what? that's just the way his face is. But I don't want to do that, even though that might be how I feel on the inside.
Yeah.
I'm a little reserved. I wanted to contribute, so I found a drum. So I was like, bum, 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 bum,
Yeah.
bum, 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 bum. And I was like, this is what my way of contributing. And it reminded me, like healing doesn't always look like tidy or calm. And I'm in no place to judge. I'm literally observing with a wild curiosity of how people that have suffered immense trauma are releasing it right now. They've come all this way to release it. And like I say, emotional boot camp, it was not what I expected, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna drum and watch what's going on, and it was really organic. It seemed to just happen
Yeah.
organically, and it was wildly, like, for me, it blindsided me 100%. Chris was over this side of the room, and I purposely didn't want to look at her because I didn't want her to feel judged
Yeah.
at all. So I didn't want her to feel even observed. I thought, if you want to contribute to this and take
Hmm.
part, I don't want you to feel that you can't do it because I'm looking at you, if you know what I mean. So I was
Hmm.
like, but I'll just concentrate on this side of the room and I'll keep the drum beat. So, I didn't fully understand what I was seeing, but I respected it, and everyone was letting go of something heavy. It was wild.
Yeah. It's the being able to hold space for people that are in those like really heavy emotional situations without either feeling awkward yourself or trying to like solve their problem. I think that's always my issue, is that I either feel uncomfortable and awkward, like I'm not sure what to do now. Do I hug this person? Do I say something? Or I want to like relate to them. I'm like, oh, I know exactly how you feel, or I want to help them
Mm,
with their problem. And that is what I always get so very uncomfortable in situations where people are releasing trauma. But it's also so cool to watch people cathartically like
mm,
cry and scream and like all these things that they're working through. I went to like a women's business retreat in May, maybe, and yeah, it was very similar. Like there was a lot of things that had nothing to do with business. There were
mm,
more like on the individual level. And it was very interesting to watch somebody be the first to like cross that line of like, okay, I have to spill out these emotions. And then yeah, just being in that space, trying to hold space for those people, while not also trying to like, make it about me or feel uncomfortable or whatever. It's
mm.
an odd thing sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't call it an exorcism, but at some
Yeah,
point, I was like thinking someone's going to bust out the holy water soon. You know what I mean? So it
totally.
was. But it was wild. Like people were screaming and letting go of a lot of stuff, and then people were coming to them and holding them and like hugging them on the floor and allowing them to release stuff. And the facilitators did a phenomenally fantastic job of like holding space for everyone. And afterwards, I got a lot of compliments on the drum. They were like, "Oh, were you the guy on the drum? Oh, you were really holding it together for me while I was on the, while I was releasing, what I had
Yeah,
to." And I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks." I was, I was keeping the. It was brilliant. It was really nice that I
yeah.
could contribute in that way. So it wasn't what I expected, but it was something that I'm not massively unfamiliar with as well. Like I've been
Hmm.
to ayahuasca retreats, and that was kind of similar. So this was kind of like ayahuasca without the actual plant medicine. So it was a very interesting experience, and I was very happy. And afterwards, because everyone shared so authentically, that's how we got such a bond. We were like, wow. I mean, I've seen you. One guy actually vomited, like literally vomited out. I guess whatever he was holding on to, like symbolically, and we got him a bowl and stuff, so it wasn't
Yeah.
a mess. But it was, yeah, he seemed to let go of some things, and everyone seemed to feel better afterwards, and we all felt so much tighter afterwards. It was
That's
great.
interesting. I'm sure that the people who organize these retreats, like the drums and all these things, are actually like they're strategic, because I'm sure
Mm,
that drumming is sound therapy of some kind, or if somebody chooses to drum and there's that like constant noise, then it's like almost like a mantra meditation. Like it gives you something to focus on. If you have a hard time focusing on bodily things, you have something else outside of yourself to focus on.
hmm.
So yeah, I'm sure that all of those things are strategically placed to make the experience interesting and
Yeah,
therapeutic. Yeah.
exactly. Um, So that was like day 3. There was more sharing and stuff. On the last day, there was a bit of drama. One person had to leave. It's a bit of a sensitive topic, so out of respect for the facilitators, I'll keep it deliberately vague. But without going into details, I was really proud of how the group came together. I was actually very proud of how I contributed as well. When the facilitator had to leave, like the men's circle, I sort of took a little bit of a leadership role, and I just said, "Hey, listen, like let's not descend into the drama. Let's keep it together." And so for example, we had a sharing stick. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. You have like a stick, a talking stick, shall we say?
Yeah.
And when you have the talking stick, you are the one that has
Yeah.
that can share. And so I said, "Oh, let's get the stick and let's continue." And when the facilitator came back into the room, he said, "Oh my God, like the men are running their own circle. Amazing." He was really thrilled that he didn't have this pressure to show up when there was something that needed his attention quite urgently elsewhere. And that was really great. And then when he came in, I said, "Dan, would you like to share, not as a facilitator, but as a human being?" And he shared the truth of his heart in a way that was very authentic, and it gave him a chance to just offload a little bit of some of the load that he was quite obviously carrying. And also, I got to share something that had happened to me the night before, something that was very, very powerful. I had an experience where I thought about something that had happened in my past, something that I hadn't made peace with. And again, I'm going to be deliberately vague because it's very, very personal, but I shared with Chris at the end of the night something that I had done in the past that I wasn't too proud of, something that I hadn't made peace with. And she basically said, that makes you human. It doesn't make you a bad person. And it makes me love you more. And as soon as she said that, I was like, wow. You remember I said it's either going to be a hell yes or a hell no. I was like, wow, this is a hell yes. She is the most wonderful, understanding, beautiful, loving being. And I'm definitely going to ask her to marry me. And then the next day, that's how it all, came full circle. But it was a very, very powerful time at the retreat.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm always like, I always want to go do that stuff. But Joe would be the guy in the corner with the face. He'd be like, guy, like, what's happening? What is happening? Like, he's not a meditation guy or any of that stuff, but he does like music. So maybe like, that kind of stuff would, and he is emotional. Like, he's not a person that won't share his emotions, and he cries like at our wedding and all that stuff. So I think that I don't know. I always think that he would be the guy that has the weird face, but maybe he wouldn't be. There was something on here that somebody said that I thought we should.
I've got mixed emotions about the comments. The comments aren't showing up on my screen, but I can see them in the corner, very small. So I can see that people are giving me congratulations and saying Chris is the one. But it's at the same time, the comments can be quite distracting. So it's it's a weird juxtaposition of not being distracted by the comments, but then not being able to see the comments.
Michael's asking, is your fiance a French citizen or is she an expat like you are? He's talked about this before, but I'll let him answer that just for you and for any others who don't know.
Thanks for highlighting that comment. I don't have the ability to highlight comments either. So anyway, so Chris is Spanish. She's from Spain and we live in France. So she's not an expat, but she is, well, I guess that does make her an expat because she lives here now, but she doesn't need a residency permit because, Britain went through Brexit, so now I have to be a resident to live in Europe. We won't go into Brexit. We won't derail the conversation into Brexit. But so she can live here as part of the European Union. So I'm not sure if that counts as being an expat. But yeah, she's not from France.
I'm just trying to see if there's any other ones. That was the only question, really. The other ones were just a lot of, did you set a date?
Hey, no, to be totally honest, there's something else I really want to share as well. I hadn't actually planned on sharing this, but we are looking to start a little family. That was one of the conversations that happened. I mean, I know that we've been trying for a happy accident for a while, and, with my fertility issues and her age being 35, I mean, it's not that old, but like the chances are quite low anyway. But we have decided that it's something that we both want. And I think that takes priority over a marriage at the moment. The ring is a very clear commitment that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And I do want to start a family and have a child more than, you know, a marriage. That sort of takes priority, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's hard to know what to do first. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to get married, really, like apart from the marriage license, depending on where you are. So I don't know that that's like an actual barrier. But if you guys want a wedding where your mom and dad can be there and all that stuff, then that is like, you know, obviously an expense and something to consider because your families don't live where you live. So that's always like, yeah. Um, but yeah, Joe and I started we did that. We got engaged and then actually I was pregnant when we got engaged, but we got pregnant and then we got engaged. So we did it a little bit backwards, but yeah, I don't think that it's necessary to have like that piece of paper as
Yeah.
long as you have the commitment. And honestly, like the ring is the most important thing because the piece of paper really says nothing. I have a marriage certificate that really means nothing. And it's, you know, the piece of paper
Wow.
that proves something, but I mean, there's plenty of people with the piece of paper and it means nothing to them in terms of their commitment. So I think having the commitment is more important than the piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the subject of parents, this holiday in the UK had two clear halves. It was very, very different. The retreat was beautiful, full of love, you know, had a big fireworks at the end, you know, engagement, beautiful. The second half of the holiday was far more challenging. After all that love and connection, I went to see my parents in Southampton. Well, they live in Cornwall, but I went to Southampton to see family. And the contrast was quite huge, if I'm honest. My mum struggles with dementia, and my dad is doing the best he can. But it's tough, you know. Tough conversations were had. I had this thought that when you're a parent, you have to have tough love with your children. You know, you have to say, you can't look at the iPad all day, not because I'm being mean, because I love you. And then sometimes it comes full contrast. And when your parents are struggling, I have to come in and have a tough conversation. Look, I know that you don't want to have this conversation, but I need to have a tough conversation with you. You guys aren't handling the situation very well. It's an incredibly cruel situation to be put in, but dad isn't handling it. I used to think that my mum was in denial of having it, which was frustrating. But now I realize that part of the condition is believing that you don't have it. So that gives me a lot more empathy for it. You know, I realize that she's not just being stubborn. It's the fact that she genuinely believes that she doesn't have dementia. So it's quite hard to have these conversations, and she doesn't want to get the help that's available or the support that is available. And I try to explain to her what that looks like and what that doesn't look like. It was difficult because when we finally made progress with that conversation, and I explained to her that dad is looking to get some help, we called the dementia hotline, we called the Cornwall's Carer Association, we put things in place. The next day, when I said, do you remember that conversation we had yesterday? She didn't remember it, so we had to have it again, and it was a little bit like Groundhog Day. You know, it was met with initial resistance. You know, I'm really sorry, but as much as you don't want to have this conversation, it's necessary. And here we go again. And then it kind of was met with resistance. We kind of came full circle. We had some hugs, we had some tears, we had some acceptance, but with the knowledge that am I going to have to have this conversation again tomorrow? So it was really quite difficult. And it was draining, if I'm honest. And I don't want to say that, you know, as in like my parents are a burden. Like I love my parents immensely. And one of the things that was really important to me, and one of the things that really helped with the retreat, was my mum might be confused. She might not be able to remember things, but she can definitely feel things. So I really wanted to make it very important. It was really important to me that she felt loved. And I was like, look, I know that you get confused sometimes, Mum, and I know that you're forgetful, but you are loved. People love you, and we're doing this because we love you. You know, it's not... I know it's a difficult thing to accept, but that was really important to me, and I made her feel loved so many times. But like I say, it was quite challenging, very, very challenging. I spent the week trying to help, you know, calling dementia helplines, Carers Association, trying to get them support. And I felt like my cup was overflowing at the retreat. But then by the end of my time in the UK, I felt my cup had been slowly draining. But it was nice to be able to give that love, you know, where it was necessary. But by the end, you know, I was spent.
Yeah. That's such a hard diagnosis, just in general, because of, you know, the toll it takes on the individual, but also the toll it takes on the family, because um, it's really hard to get that support when you know the person doesn't understand it and is likely going to be confused and scared when that help is there. And there's really nothing there's nothing you can do about it other than accept that, you know, discomfort. But yeah, that sucks. I'm really sorry that that was how your trip ended, but it's also a necessary thing and part of the journey that we go through as adult children, to aging parents. And yeah, we're all not all necessarily going to be in that dementia, you know, on that dementia journey, but there's those hard decisions, hard situations, and ultimately, you know, we have to take these last, you know, years that we get with our parents and treat them as a blessing, even if they're fraught with like difficulty a lot of the time.
Yeah. It was incredibly tough. And to see the way that my siblings deal with it in their own different ways. For example, again, I can talk about it here because they don't watch it and stuff, but I think it was tough for me to hear them say, we're just going to have to wait till it gets worse. And I thought, well, that doesn't, I want to be proactive about what the future looks like for my parents. My dad isn't handling it, and he'd expressed a real concern that, you know, if something, he's got a heart condition, you know, and if he gets riled up at some point and I don't know, dies, like, who's going to look after my mum? You know, she needs someone, and he's trying to put things in place in case of the worst case scenario, and then to be met by some other points of view that are like, oh, you know, we can't really do anything if she doesn't want help. We'll just have to wait till it gets worse. And I'm like, wow, like that feels like I'm burying my head in the sand and ignoring the elephant in the room. And are we just being polite? You know, you know, it was just really difficult for me and my siblings to not be on the same page. And I really wanted us to come together, almost like an intervention, to be like, hey, listen, mum, we love you. You know, it's not just me that's being difficult here. It's we're doing this out of love. And it was so sad. It's such a sad, cruel disease that, you know, I don't want my mum to like wither away in like this undignified way. She just loves people so much, and it's just sad, you know, to see that. Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. Life's not fair sometimes, you know. And interestingly enough, one of the facilitators at the retreat, his mum is suffering with dementia as well. So it was really nice to have that sort of solidarity to know that, you know, this is fairly common, and yeah, it's just horrible,
Yeah.
man.
It's interesting the way people handle those kinds of things, because on one hand you're saying, like, you know, before she gets worse and she still has some of the mental capacity to understand the changes that are happening and the supports that are being put in place, we should do it now. And other people are being like, you know, why make it uncomfortable for her? But it's going to be uncomfortable no matter what. And I think it's worse when she doesn't understand in any way, or can't understand in any way, what's happening. And God forbid she should have to be moved to an assisted living facility or something like that, when she really doesn't understand. And then it's scary. And that's when people with dementia become, you know, violent and angry, and they have so much anxiety and stuff. And it's just like, it's hard to watch somebody go through that. And not that, you know, putting those supports in place is going to totally eliminate those kinds of changes or reactions to the changes, should those things have to happen. But still, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think you just have to do your best to make whatever decision feels right for your family, and, you know, deal with whatever fallout from those decisions is a consequence, you know?
I mean, you're right. It's tough because I wanted to get my dad some help because he's admitted that he can't handle the situation. So to get some peer support from other people that are
Mhm.
going through the same situation, other carers that that can empathize with the
Mhm.
situation, to see the person you love slowly change into someone that is. I want to be careful because I know that like my mum and dad might watch this, so I want to be careful with my words, and I don't want to, you know what I mean. I don't want them to be too upsetting. So peer support for my dad from other people that understand the situation, physical support as well, like if he
Mhm.
needs respite,
Yeah.
from having these tough times. And and there is support for my mum as well, but she has made it very, very clear it's on her own terms. And I said absolutely. And so I tried to explain to my mum what this help and support looks like. It's not like we're trying to put you in a home. It could be like memory cafes, going to see other people. She's explained that she's very frustrated that she doesn't have a job. She's like, when I had a job, I had something to do, but now I just sit at home all day. It's getting worse. And I understand that. If you go to these memory cafes, they could be stimulating for your brain. They might not be what you think they are. They're held at, church halls, like with they could be fun days out for you,
Mhm.
but try and be open-minded to them. And she's like, I don't want to go to these places, and I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do, but try and see where I'm coming from here.
Mhm.
Help me help you. So it was, oh, it was very, very difficult, and I'd spent a lot of time with them. And what was very difficult at the very, very last day was my mum said, "Oh, I'm just so glad to see you. I feel like I haven't spent any time with you all week." And I said, "I spent 8 hours with you yesterday." And she was like, "Oh, did you?" And I said, "Yeah." And for me, I'd spent an enormous amount of time with my parents, and I know that she and and what was really frustrating for me is I'd held, not no I didn't, that's not the right word. I had given her so much love and patience, but by the time the end of the week come over and she said that she hadn't spent enough time with me, and me pointing out all the time I had spent with her, it felt like I was like saying I'd made some sort of noble sacrifice, and I
Mhm.
didn't mean for it to come across that way. It's like it was just a very difficult, like how do you want even more of my time? I've given you so much of my time. I actually need some time for myself as well.
Mhm.
And that she couldn't understand, but not because it was her fault. And she didn't want, she just couldn't remember. And
Mhm.
and it made me feel like I was just a little burnt out, and
Mhm.
no, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's a tough situation.
Trying to the hardest thing about any part of an aging parent situation, especially with memory issues, is us not pretending, but like trying not to point out where things are wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
And like I've only dealt with that very briefly, with loved ones that have, been dealing with dementia, but it hasn't been like an extended period of time, and it hasn't been somebody as close as my mom. So I'm not sure what I would do. I think that's a very hard situation to be in. I will say that seniors are the largest the largest group of acquired disabilities and the most stubborn, and they do not like accepting things that would increase their independence and freedom, because they think that it's like giving up or something like that,
mm,
which is like
mm,
such a strange notion to somebody with a disability that's a younger person, because we see these tools, wheelchairs, anything that is like supportive of our ability to be independent, make ourselves healthier, all that stuff. We see it as like something that's a good thing, but people with seniors don't. There's a developer here that builds houses, and he said that seniors are the most stubborn population. Even when they can't walk and they need mobility devices, they still want stairs in their house, even at the
mm,
risk of like falling and breaking their hips and stuff like that, which is just, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. My grandpa, he couldn't breathe because he had a lung condition, and for the last like 3 years of his life, I tried to convince him to get a power wheelchair, because I said you would be able to go places, go visit your friends, because he had a lot of friends in his neighborhood and he couldn't walk to go visit them like he used to. And then in the last 3 months that he was alive, he got his power chair and was like so happy. And then he passed away.
mm.
But I was just like, wow, you could have been doing this for 3 years. But he was like, no, I am never getting a wheelchair, even though his granddaughter is in a wheelchair. I'm like, Grandpa, like, I'm in a
Mm,
wheelchair. I promise. It's not that bad of a, it's okay. And he was like, never,
mm.
I will never succumb to my ability to not walk or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So I think that your mom is just in that situation right now where she's losing every sense of herself and her independence, and she's grasping onto every part of it that she can control. And unfortunately, that's just human nature.
You make a really good point, and it's oh yeah, I think I wish I could have had that insight when I was there, because sometimes, like I say, sometimes it feels like she's being stubborn,
Hmm.
and then sometimes I have to remind myself it's one of the symptoms. You know, one of the
Yeah,
symptoms is believing that you don't have a problem, and like you said, refusing help might be her way of grasping onto independence, saying,
yeah,
"Hey, listen, this is." I'll take help when I need it, but I don't need
hmm,
it now. And she said to me many times, I'm not a quitter. I'm going to keep going for as long as I can. I'm not going to give up. But asking for help isn't giving up.
hmm,
Seeking support isn't giving up. It's if anything, it's going to extend the longevity that you know going to these memory cafes, stimulating your brain,
yeah,
getting help. You know, if dad can find more empathy, more patience, you know, and they can create more harmony in their home, that's going to help the situation. It's not giving up. It's but trying to explain that to her is just met with a lot of resistance, and
yeah,
yeah, and I
yeah.
kind of
Definitely
understand it.
tough situation for sure. Yeah, and I'm not that it's like, it's probably not a great thing that you're so far away, but it is probably good for your own mental health. And um, to be able to help from afar is
Mm.
probably easier at times
Oh
than being so close to the situation.
yeah, I just realised I uploaded a picture of me and my mum. Oh, there it is. There's my mum.
Oh, what a good
So you
picture.
guys can get a little visual. There she is. I love her so much. You know, she's a sweet, sweet, sweet lady,
Mm,
and yeah, there she
yeah,
is.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for letting me take center stage on this pod, because I had so much to share, and it was really nice that you were so interested and giving me the space. And you know, when we come back next week, we'll definitely have a balance. I know that you did a solo pod last week. I didn't even see it. So tell me how that went.
It was really great. Honestly, it was fun because for most of the podcast, we have a hard time interacting with each other and the audience at the same time
Hmm.
because we feel like if we're reading the comments while the other is talking, then that's like, it's it feels rude.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so we're like trying to like balance paying attention to two things at once. Whereas I didn't really have that problem when I was by myself. So I was able to like pause, read the comments, answer a lot of questions. And they were like helping me work through a dilemma that I was having with the house that we're trying to get built on our acreage. And so it was a very engaging conversation. So I really liked it. And a lot of people left really positive comments and stuff. So everybody missed you, but it was fun. So I think it's one of those things that we should do more often. If the other is like busy, we should just
Mm.
try doing the solo thing because then we can really focus on the people who have questions for us specifically. As long as you bring as long as we bring something that we can
Yeah.
talk about to the table, because I had a lot of stuff to talk about, whether people asked questions or not. So I was able to kill an hour all by myself. So it was fun.
Fantastic. That's great. Yeah. In stark contrast, this week I've not been able to see any of the comments.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've been running a little bit blind, but I can see in the very small text that there are some very positive comments that have been. I'll have to watch again with the live
This
chat.
one's really great. Somewhere in your mom's soul, she remembers. And that's the thing that we like, the thing that makes us who we are is still there. And, the organ that helps us, interpret the world and generate like these interactions with the world, it starts to fail when we have dementia. But That's why I just watched the movie. Have you ever seen The Notebook?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I assume all of you were talking in that comment that your mom remembers. I love that movie because she's got dementia and often doesn't remember. And so her husband is reading her this notebook that she wrote about their lives. And every once in a while she's listening to the notebook, she like has this like period of lucidity where she's like, oh my God, I remember.
Mm,
And then it goes away. And but it's such a great movie to show the difficulty of dealing with somebody that you love so much with dementia, um, and just having to be a bystander as their situation deteriorates, and it's hard, but it's a
yeah.
great movie, such a good reminder. Fred, do you have assisted living facilities where your parents live? And has
Uh,
that been part of the conversation?
There are like admiral nurses that can come to the home if you
Yeah.
want. When I said that, my mum was like, "No, I definitely don't want a nurse. I don't need a nurse." And she doesn't. Like, she can take care of herself. She can dress herself. Like, these are the sort of conversations we were having on the dementia hotline. Can she dress herself? Yeah. In fact, she's got a great fashion sense. You know,
Yeah.
she dresses quite well. She's got some funky jumpers. She always looks good. You know, does she have any issues? You know, taking care of herself? Absolutely not. Like, she has all of those things. And
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that she doesn't need help, you know, because for example, my dad has taken care of a lot of the driving. She doesn't drive.
Hmm.
I don't think she'd be safe behind the wheel, to be honest. My dad does all the cooking because she gets lost in the kitchen. She forgets where things are. So she does need help in that way. But you know, it's not. I don't know. It's a difficult conversation, a difficult question because sometimes, and this actually does really suck when people say, "Oh, if she can still take care of it, it's not that bad then." And I'm like, no, it is quite bad.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was showing her pictures on the phone of like me and my sister, and she wasn't recognizing the pictures of the phone. In fact, I showed her a recent picture of my dad, and she was like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, does that not look familiar to anyone? That doesn't look familiar to you? And she said, nope. And I said, what about that guy there? Well, that's dad, isn't it? And I said, I know. Well, who's that then? She was like, oh, is that dad? And I thought, oh my god, that's wild. She wasn't recognizing pictures of herself. Anyway, it
It's
was
interesting. I'm reading a book right now, and it's not about dementia, but a character in the book has dementia, and they were talking about dementia in the book, and that there's two types. One type where people cannot no longer feed themselves, like they're it attacks part of their brain that they like daily tasks like that allow them to remember how to brush their teeth and all that stuff, but they
mhm,
can remember who their kids and stuff are. And then the other type of dementia is where their daily habits don't get affected, but like their short-term and long-term memory is affected. So like your mom, like if she went grocery shopping and remembered, oh, I meal planned for these 3 meals, she goes to cook, has no idea what's in the kitchen or where she put it. Or if she's like somebody has a birthday party and she was there, no idea, but she can remember how to brush her teeth and all that stuff. So this is actually sounding very like accurate to the book that I'm
mm,
reading, because I was wondering if they were like accurate about it, but I think that must be true, that some people struggle with daily living, and then some people struggle more with like that memory component that allows them to interact socially or just like navigate the world.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. It is interesting. So I know that I usually end with a magic trick, but
Mhm.
I don't have one.
Oh,
But the magic is, you know, I asked my girlfriend to marry me,
yeah,
and
that
that
is
was pretty
magical.
magic. And
Uh,
also, I did lots of magic while I was away. I did magic at the retreat. I did magic at for my friends who I was staying with, my nephew, my sister, my other friend. I did magic for quite a lot, and I got a resounding level of like, oh my god, you've really upped your game. You are really good at magic these days. And I was like, oh, thanks so much. They were like, no, no, seriously, you are a proper magician. And I was like, oh, thanks. That's so. It was really cool. It's so nice to be able to have put in all this hard work, and then you go back to the UK, and you're sort of flawlessly. You've got the scripting down, you've got the timing right, and it just flows. And people are like, oh my god, that is amazing. And it's so nice to have that really beautiful feedback of like
yeah.
you have leveled up, my friend, and that really filled me up.
That is really cool. Well, if the last trick that you did on the podcast before you went on your vacation was any indication of like, you know, whether you're a true magician. Like it was, because it was like amazing. Here's just a little comment that I thought I should read. Fred, my mom had dementia, and when it came time to look for help, we found an adult daycare, which she came home every night. I went with her a couple times to visit, and she came to love it, even though she was very resistant at first. So maybe these things are just about, you know, like we were talking about like on the podcast about the comfort zone and how it's so uncomfortable to be outside of your comfort zone. Well, like there's a lot of things that are outside of your mom's comfort zone. And so maybe you just got to push past that resistance to show her that like these things are good, and then maybe she'll like it. But anyway, I just wanted to read that before.
Thank you for that comment. Thank you for highlighting it so I could see it as well. That was really
Yeah.
nice. I really appreciate that comment, and I hope that is something that my mum in time will you know, come to accept, and that can help.
Yeah. Another question for you. Ask Fred if he has any more upcoming croupier gigs.
Great question, James. Thank you very much. I do. So I've been added to this group chat, which I had to put on mute because it's been going off in my, you know, like when I put on my phone after my digital detox, I had over 100 messages, and I was like, you know, this is overwhelming. Yes, but I have to like actively look for the croupier gigs. There's an upcoming one in Switzerland. There's an upcoming one in Italy. They're not as convenient as an hour and a half down the road, and I'm not sure about the travel expenses and whether it's, you know, the juice is worth the squeeze. I think it will definitely be worth doing it anyway, because even if I don't earn that much money, it will still be a fun experience for me to get out of my comfort zone. But the honest answer is I don't know yet. I've only been home one day. Even making it to this live stream was actually a bit of a struggle, like, because, you know, it was all day traveling yesterday, decompressing last night. So yeah, I'm just sharing very honestly with you now. I will let you know. Another thing I wanted to say is I really wanted to like take a lot of video and like do a lot of visual storytelling. You know, like when I went for the croupier stuff, I made a big video about it, and I wanted to share that. After the digital detox, I felt like I just didn't want to. Like there were so many things I wanted to record and manage, but I had this sort of allergy to looking at my phone. So I just didn't, and I thought I'd just tell you about it on the podcast. And I shared a few little photos with you, but I didn't take any video because I just felt like it was something I wanted to detach myself from, like this digital tether, you know, that we have with these phones. I wanted to detach myself from it, and I am proud to say I did it for so long. But after the week I felt like I needed to decompress, and I fell into old habits, and I did use it as a digital pacifier. I found myself down YouTube rabbit holes, and I was flogging myself like, oh, you fool, you've been sucked back in. But I feel like I need to find another way of decompressing sometimes, you know, when I'm stressed, not to just go on my phone, even though sometimes, counterintuitively, sometimes the content on YouTube is so nourishing and so awesome, such an awesome podcast, and it can also be a doom scrolling platform at the same time. And I know there's so many people that can resonate with that, but it's a balance I'm still struggling with.
Yeah, totally. I hear you with that. I wanted to just, before we go, mention that I have my Empowered Para Zoom hangout on my Patreon on Saturday, and hopefully Fred can come. If you can't, that's fine. It's at 10. It's at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on Saturday. So if you're part of the $10 tier, then you can join. And that's just a way for me to reward people who go over to my Patreon and are willing to support my channel and my journey as a content creator. So I know some people get really pissed that I don't make everything for free, but I really feel that I should provide value to people that are able to pay. And I think that doing these things provides a lot of free value for the others who can't afford it. So if you can't afford to spend $10 extra a month and you want to come join the monthly Zoom calls where we do this face-to-face and we get to see you face-to-face, then I would love you to join. So if you can head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/empoweredpara, then you can go and join anytime before now and Saturday, and I will see you guys there.
Perfect. And on that note, after a conversation with Brittany, my monthly Patreon hangouts on Zoom will also be now exclusively available to the paid members, not the free members, just because we had a chat about it and it just seems to make sense. It creates more value for the people that do contribute financially. And I apologize, there's been none last month, and this last 2 weeks have been very hectic for me, but I promise you that I'll line some up for the future. And on that note, I think we're done. Anything else you want to add?
No, that was it. I just wanted to say that. I'll have some more like exciting stuff to share on the next podcast probably. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys on the Patreon hangout.
Absolutely. Thanks again for letting me take the spotlight on this one. I appreciate you allowing me to share all the good news with everyone. Thank you all so much for the comments. I couldn't really see them, but we'll see you next Tuesday.
Okay, bye guys.
See you next Tuesday, guys. Bye. Oh, that was a fun